Fix my heart like you fix my car. A billionaire's desperate plea to a single dad mechanic goes viral. But when hidden truths, a sick daughter, and the world's judgment crash into their lives, can two broken men really fix each other, or will this story of hope shatter before it begins? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The rain pounded against the windshield of Ethan Caldwell's Bentley like angry fists. He gripped the leather steering wheel tighter, squinting through the sheets of water cascading down the glass. The sleek black car, worth more than most houses in this small Ohio town, chose this moment to sputter and cough. No, Ethan muttered, easing the dying vehicle toward the shoulder of the empty highway. The engine gave one final wheeze before falling silent, leaving only the drumming of rain and the occasional swish of passing cars to break the quiet. He pulled out his phone, its blue light illuminating his frustrated features. No signal. Of course. Ethan ran a hand through his perfectly styled silver hair, messing it up for the first time in what felt like years. He'd made his billions solving problems, yet here he sat, defeated by a broken-down car in the middle of nowhere. Through the rain-streaked window, a dim yellow light caught his eye. Squinting, he could just make out the outline of a sign, Turner's Garage. The letters were faded, but the O-Pin sign glowed like a beacon. Ethan grabbed his umbrella, a sleek black thing that probably cost more than most people's weekly grocery bill, and stepped out into the storm. The wind immediately tried to snatch the umbrella from his grip, and his Italian leather shoes squelched in puddles as he made his way to the garage's entrance. The building itself was modest, with weathered red brick walls and large bay doors. One was open, spilling warm light onto the wet pavement. The scent of oil, rubber, and something else, maybe coffee, drifted out to meet him. "Hello?" Ethan called out, lowering his umbrella as he stepped inside. "I need some assistance." A voice answered from beneath a lifted pickup truck. "Be right with you." The words were followed by the metallic clinking of tools. A moment later, a man rolled out from under the truck on a creeper. He was broad-shouldered and solid, wearing oil-stained coveralls with Jack embroidered on the chest pocket. His face was open and honest, with laugh lines around his eyes despite the serious set of his mouth. "What seems to be the trouble?" Jack asked, wiping his hands on a rag as he stood. "My car died about a quarter mile down the road," Ethan explained, gesturing vaguely toward the direction he'd come from. "A Bentley Continental GT." Jack nodded, no hint of being impressed by the expensive model. "Let me grab my tow truck. You can wait here where it's dry if you'd like. There's coffee in the office." Before Ethan could respond, a young girl's voice called out from somewhere in the back. "Dad? Have you seen my science book? Check under the counter, Lily." Jack called back, then turned to Ethan with an apologetic smile. "My daughter," he explained simply. A teenage girl with auburn hair pulled back in a messy ponytail bounded into view, clutching a textbook. She wore jeans and a faded t-shirt with a periodic table joke on it. Her eyes lit up when she saw Ethan. "Oh, hi. Are you stuck in the storm too?" "Lily, mister." Jack trailed off, looking at Ethan questioningly. "Caldwell. Ethan Caldwell." "Mr. Caldwell's car broke down," Jack explained. "I'm heading out to tow it in. Can I come?" Lily asked eagerly. "I finished my homework and I love watching you work on cars." Jack's expression softened as he looked at his daughter. "Not in this weather, kiddo. Stay inside and keep working on that science project." Lily's shoulders slumped slightly, but she nodded. "Okay, Dad." She turned to Ethan with a bright smile. "Don't worry. My dad can fix anything." Something about her simple faith in her father touched something deep inside Ethan. When was the last time his own son had looked at him with such trust? Jack returned 15 minutes later with Ethan's Bentley in tow, water streaming off the car's pristine surface. He positioned it carefully in the bay next to the pickup truck and got to work, his movements efficient and purposeful. Ethan watched from a wooden chair in the office area, cradling a cup of surprisingly good coffee. The walls were covered with a mix of automotive certificates and children's artwork. A few showed what appeared to be Jack and Lily, stick figures with bright smiles, always holding hands. "Your alternator's shot," Jack called out after a while. "Probably been going for a while. Warning lights didn't come on?" Ethan felt his face warm slightly. "They might have. I've been distracted lately." Jack made a non-committal sound and returned to his work. His hands moved with quiet confidence, treating the expensive car with the same careful attention he'd probably give to any vehicle that came through his doors. From her perch on a tall stool behind the counter, Lily was supposedly reading her science book, but Ethan noticed her sneaking glances at him. Finally, she spoke up. "Are you really that Ethan Caldwell? The one who builds hospitals and stuff?" Ethan nodded, somewhat surprised she recognized his name. "Yes, that's me." "Cool!" Lily's eyes sparkled. "Dad, did you know he funded that new children's wing at Central Hospital? The one where I had my last checkup?" Jack looked up briefly from his work, his expression unreadable. "Is that right?" Something in his tone made Ethan want to explain himself, though he wasn't sure why. "It's important to give back when you can." Jack hummed, returning to his task. But there was something in that simple sound that made Ethan feel like he'd been both judged and found wanting, though Jack's face showed nothing but concentration on his work. The rain continued its steady drumming on the roof as Jack worked. Lily eventually dozed off over her textbook, and Jack quietly draped a worn flannel jacket over her shoulders without breaking stride in his repair work. Finally, after what seemed like hours, but was probably less, Jack straightened up and wiped his hands. "That should do it. Want to start her up?" Ethan nodded and slid behind the wheel. The engine purred to life immediately, smooth as silk. Relief flooded through him not just at the fixed car, but at something else he couldn't quite name. "What do I owe you?" Ethan reached for his wallet. Jack named a figure that seemed impossibly low for the quality of work he'd just witnessed. When Ethan tried to protest, Jack shook his head firmly. "That's the fair price," he said simply. "Don't need more than that." As Ethan wrote the check, he noticed Jack's gentle hand on Lily's shoulder, waking her. She blinked sleepily and smiled at her father, that same trust and love shining in her eyes. The rain had finally settled into a gentle drizzle as Ethan prepared to leave. He watched Jack help a still drowsy Lily gather her books, noted the way the mechanic's strong hands turned gentle when dealing with his daughter. As Ethan drove away, the Bentley running perfectly, he found himself thinking not about the repair, but about the way Jack had treated him, not as a billionaire, but simply as another person needing help. He thought about the quiet dignity in the man's work, the love between father and daughter, the simple honesty in every word and gesture. "That man," Ethan murmured to himself as the garage's lights faded in his rearview mirror, "fixed more than my car tonight." Back in his penthouse suite at the Grand River Hotel, Ethan Caldwell stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching lightning dance across the stormy Ohio sky. His usually pristine suit jacket hung over a chair, slightly damp from the earlier downpour. The Bentley's keys sat on the marble counter beside his phone, a quiet reminder of the unexpected encounter that had shifted something inside him. He couldn't shake the image of Jack Turner's weathered hands working with such precision, or the quiet dignity in the mechanic's eyes. In all his years of running a global empire, Ethan had grown accustomed to people treating him differently once they recognized his name. But Jack had been different. No fawning, no subtle hints for favors or funding. Just honest work and genuine kindness. Ethan picked up his phone, turning it over in his hands. The rain continued its steady rhythm against the windows as he opened his camera app. Something compelled him to speak, to share what he'd experienced. He held the phone up, framing himself against the storm-darkened sky. "You know," he began, his voice softer than his usual boardroom tone, "something extraordinary happened to me today. My very expensive car broke down in the middle of nowhere, Ohio." He paused, a genuine smile crossing his face. "I found this small garage, Turner's garage. The owner, Jack Turner, he didn't know who I was. Didn't care, really. He just saw someone who needed help." Ethan walked closer to the window, the camera following his movement. "I've met countless people in my life, CEOs, world leaders, celebrities. But this mechanic," he shook his head, emotion catching in his throat. "This man didn't just fix my car, he fixed something in me. The way he worked, with such integrity and skill. No shortcuts, no excuses. Just honest labor and genuine kindness." Lightning flashed behind him as he continued. "We need more people like Jack Turner in this world. People who remind us what really matters isn't the car you drive or the suit you wear, but the way you treat others, the way you show up in the world." He ended the recording and watched it back once. It wasn't polished like his usual media appearances. His hair was slightly disheveled, his tie loosened, but something about its raw honesty felt right. Without overthinking it, he posted it to his social media accounts, added a simple caption, "A lesson from Turner's garage," and set his phone aside. The rest of his evening passed quietly. He ordered room service, reviewed some contracts, and finally settled into the king-sized bed, the storm still rumbling outside his window. For the first time in years, he fell asleep thinking not about business deals or board meetings, but about the simple wisdom he'd witnessed in a small-town garage. The insistent buzzing of his phone pulled him from sleep hours later. Sunlight streamed through the windows he'd forgotten to shade. Ethan blinked, reaching for his phone. The screen was flooded with notifications, thousands of them. Text messages, emails, social media alerts, missed calls. His video had exploded overnight. Sitting up in bed, he scrolled through the numbers in disbelief. The video had been shared over 100,000 times. Comments poured in by the second. This is what America needs to see. Real recognition of everyday heroes. I'm crying. The humility in this is beautiful. Who is this Jack Turner? We need his story. Major news networks were reaching out for interviews. His PR team had sent dozens of urgent messages. But what caught his eye was a text from his assistant. Turner's garage is surrounded by reporters. Local news vans blocking the entrance. What do you want me to do? Ethan's heart sank. He hadn't considered this consequence, hadn't thought about how his impulsive share might impact Jack's quiet life. Through the frosted bathroom window, he could hear the faint sound of helicopter blades. The media had found his hotel, too. Miles across town, Jack Turner pulled his old pickup truck into the familiar parking lot of his garage, his morning coffee balanced on the dashboard. The sight that greeted him made him slam on the brakes, coffee sloshing over the rim of his cup. At least 6 news vans crowded his small lot, their satellite dishes reaching toward the morning sky like metal trees. A swarm of reporters clutched microphones and cameras, their heads turning in unison as his truck appeared. Behind them, a group of locals had gathered, pointing and whispering. Jack sat frozen in his truck, his calloused hands gripping the steering wheel. Through the windshield, he could see the morning sun glinting off camera lenses, all aimed at him like arrows. A reporter stepped forward, tapping on his window, her red blazer bright against the weathered backdrop of his garage. His peaceful world of engines and tools, of quiet work and simple purpose, seemed to shrink beneath the weight of all those expectant eyes. The sign above his garage, the one his father had painted decades ago, stood as a silent witness to this invasion of cameras and questions. And all because he'd done what he always did, fixed a car that needed fixing. The early morning sun had barely peeked over the horizon when Jack Turner pulled into his usual parking spot behind the garage. Something was different today. A cluster of unfamiliar vehicles lined the normally empty street, and people with cameras and microphones huddled near the shop's entrance. "Dad, look!" Lily pressed her face against the passenger window of their old pickup truck, her brown eyes wide with excitement. "Are those real news reporters?" Jack's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Looks like it, sweetheart." He hadn't checked his phone since last night, too busy helping Lily with her science project. Now he wished he had. As they stepped out of the truck, the reporters surged forward like a wave. Jack instinctively moved in front of his daughter, shielding her from the sudden onslaught of flashing cameras and shouted questions. "Mr. Turner, what's your response to Ethan Caldwell's viral video? How does it feel to be praised by one of America's richest men? Did you know who he was when you fixed his car?" Lily clutched the back of her father's worn work shirt, but she was grinning. "Daddy, you're famous!" "Mr. Turner." A reporter thrust a phone in his face, playing a video. Jack caught glimpses of the well-dressed man from yesterday, speaking earnestly about integrity and kindness. His stomach dropped. "Look, folks." Jack raised his hands, trying to create some space. "I just fix cars. That's all I do. Nothing special about that." He fumbled with his keys, struggling to unlock the side door while keeping Lily protected from the press of bodies. "But Mr. Caldwell says you're an example of everything that's right with America," another reporter called out. "He says you restored his faith in humanity." Lily giggled behind him. "He's right, Dad. You're the best mechanic ever." Jack finally got the door open, ushering Lily inside. The familiar smell of motor oil and metal helped calm his nerves. "Honey, why don't you start your homework in the office? I'll deal with this." "But Dad..." "Please, Lily Pad." He used his special nickname for her, the one that always made her smile. She sighed dramatically but headed toward the small office, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Jack turned back to face the reporters, who had followed them into the garage. "Listen, I appreciate the interest, but I've got cars to fix and a business to run. Mr. Caldwell needed help, and I helped him. That's what anybody would do." "But the video has over 2 million views already," someone shouted from the back. Jack ran a hand through his hair, leaving a smudge of grease he didn't notice. 2 million? He muttered under his breath. Good Lord. The bell above the garage door chimed, and the reporters spun around like a flock of startled birds. There, in an impeccably tailored gray suit that probably cost more than Jack's monthly mortgage payment, stood Ethan Caldwell himself. The camera started flashing again, but Ethan ignored them. He walked straight to Jack, his expression genuinely apologetic. "Mr. Turner, I'm so sorry about all this. I never meant to cause such chaos." Jack studied the billionaire's face, seeing real remorse there. He glanced at the reporters, who were practically vibrating with excitement, then back at Ethan. After a moment's hesitation, he jerked his head toward the office. "Want to step inside for a minute?" Relief flooded Ethan's features. "Yes, thank you." As they walked toward the office, the reporters called out more questions, but Jack had learned to tune them out. He opened the office door to find Lily perched on the old couch, a plate of chocolate chip cookies on the coffee table in front of her. "Oh!" She jumped up, her cheeks flushing pink. "I was just about to bring these out. I made them last night." She picked up the plate and held it out toward Ethan, her hands trembling slightly. "Would you like one, Mr. Caldwell?" The simple gesture seemed to catch Ethan off guard. He stared at the slightly misshapen cookies for a moment, then took one with a warm smile. "I would love one, thank you." He paused, waiting for her name. "Lily?" she supplied, beaming. "Like the flower." "Thank you, Lily," Ethan said softly, taking a bite. "These are delicious." Jack watched the exchange, feeling some of his irritation fade. Maybe this wasn't a complete disaster after all. The reporters eventually dispersed after Jack firmly but politely declined to comment, stating he was just doing his job. Now, in the quiet of his office, Jack sat across from Ethan Caldwell, who looked markedly different from their first meeting. Gone was the composed businessman in the tailored suit. Instead, Ethan's shoulders slumped, his expensive jacket wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. Lily had excused herself to do homework in the break room, leaving the two men alone with cooling cups of coffee between them. The worn leather chair creaked as Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "I appreciate you seeing me again," Ethan began, his voice lacking its usual confidence. "Especially after the chaos I caused with that video." Jack leaned back in his chair, studying the billionaire. "You didn't drive all the way back here just to apologize for some reporters." Ethan's fingers drummed against his coffee cup. "No, I didn't." He pulled out his phone, pulled up a photo, and slid it across the desk. "That's my son, Noah." Jack picked up the phone. The screen showed a young man with Ethan's jawline but softer features, sitting at a piano. His expression was serious, focused. "He's talented," Ethan continued, his voice growing thick. "Classical pianist. Performs all over Europe now. I haven't seen him in person for 3 years." He swallowed hard. "Haven't really talked to him in 5. Jack set the phone down carefully. "That's a long time." "Too long." Ethan ran a hand through his silver-streaked hair. "I watched you with Lily earlier. The way you protected her from those reporters, how she looks at you with such trust. My son used to look at me that way, back when he was small enough to sit on my lap while I worked." The office fell quiet except for the distant sound of Lily humming in the break room and the steady tick of the wall clock, the one Jack's wife had picked out years ago. "What happened?" Jack asked softly. "Success happened. Money happened." Ethan's laugh was bitter. "I told myself I was building an empire for him, securing his future. But I missed his piano recitals. Forgot parent-teacher conferences. Sent assistants to his graduation." He pressed his palms against his eyes. "By the time I realized what I'd lost, he wouldn't take my calls. Now he only communicates through his lawyer." Jack thought of Lily's mother. How precious time had proven to be. "Have you tried telling him this?" "I've sent letters, emails, gifts. Nothing gets through." Ethan looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "Then I saw how you were with Lily, and something clicked. The way you fixed my car, no shortcuts, no quick fixes, just honest work and patience. That's what being a father should be, isn't it? He leaned forward, desperation clear in his voice. I don't need a mechanic anymore, Jack. I need a father who knows what love looks like. Fix my heart like you fixed my car. The raw honesty in Ethan's plea hung in the air. Jack glanced at the family photo on his desk, him, Lily, and Sarah at the lake, all smiling. It was the last photo they'd taken before Sarah got sick. Being a father isn't like fixing an engine, Jack said slowly. There's no manual, no guaranteed parts that'll make everything run smooth again. I know, Ethan replied quietly. But you figured out something I never could. The way Lily looks at you, that's worth more than everything in my bank account. Jack stood up and walked to his office window, watching the setting sun paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. He thought about what Sarah would say in this situation. She always saw the best in people, always believed in second chances. I'm not a counselor or a relationship expert, Jack finally said, turning back to Ethan. But if you want advice from one father to another, I'll try to help. Relief flooded Ethan's face. That's all I'm asking for. They were interrupted by Lily poking her head through the door. Dad, it's getting late and I still need help with my math homework. Be right there, sweetheart. Jack noticed how Ethan watched their interaction, hunger and longing evident in his eyes. As they walked Ethan to his car, Lily tugged on Jack's sleeve and whispered, He looks lonely, Daddy. Later that night, after helping Lily with her homework and tucking her into bed, Jack sat on the edge of his own bed, turning Ethan's words over in his mind. Fix my heart, like you fixed my car. The raw pain in the billionaire's voice had been real, the kind of pain that money couldn't solve. He thought about Lily's observation. He looks lonely, Daddy, and how children often saw straight to the truth of things. His daughter's compassion, so much like her mother's, never failed to amaze him. Sunlight streamed through the faded yellow curtains of the Turner's kitchen window. Jack stood at the stove, flipping grilled cheese sandwiches, while Lily set the table, carefully placing their everyday plates alongside a special china plate they usually saved for Christmas dinner. Daddy, should we use the fancy napkins too? Lily asked, bouncing on her toes. Jack glanced at her with a gentle smile. Regular ones are fine, sweetie. Mr. Caldwell's just here for lunch, not a state dinner. The doorbell rang, and Lily rushed to answer it. Jack heard her cheerful, Hi, Mr. Caldwell, followed by Ethan's warm greeting. Ethan stepped into their modest kitchen, looking somewhat out of place in his designer clothes. He held a bakery box in his hands. I brought dessert, he said, placing it on the counter. I hope that's okay. You didn't have to, Jack said, sliding the sandwiches onto plates. But thank you. They settled around the small kitchen table, where a pot of tomato soup sat on a worn hot pad. Lily immediately launched into conversation. Mr. Caldwell, guess what? I got the lead in our school play. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. I'm going to be Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. That's wonderful, Ethan said, his face softening into a genuine smile, the first one Jack had seen that reached his eyes. When's the performance? Next month, Lily answered, dunking her grilled cheese into her soup. Daddy's helping me practice my lines every night. Jack watched as Ethan relaxed into their simple meal and easy conversation. The billionaire's usual polished facade seemed to crack, revealing glimpses of someone more real underneath. What's your favorite subject in school? Ethan asked Lily, taking a bite of his sandwich. Science. Lily's enthusiasm made both men chuckle. We're studying the heart right now. Did you know it beats about 100,000 times a day? A shadow crossed Jack's face at the mention of hearts, but he quickly masked it. Ethan caught the brief change in his expression but didn't comment. Actually, Lily continued, oblivious to the moment, I want to be a doctor someday. Mom was a nurse, you know. She was excellent at it too, Jack added softly, reaching over to squeeze his daughter's hand. Ethan watched their interaction with a mix of admiration and longing. Noah wanted to be a doctor when he was your age, he said quietly. He ended up studying business instead. I might have pushed him too hard in that direction. It's never too late to tell him you're sorry, Lily said with the simple wisdom of youth. Ethan blinked rapidly, touched by her words. You're right, Lily. It's not too late. The conversation drifted to lighter topics as they finished their lunch. Lily told stories about her friends at school, her drama club adventures, and her plans to paint her bedroom purple. Ethan listened intently, asking questions and laughing at her jokes. Jack observed how naturally Ethan interacted with Lily, nothing like the commanding presence he projected in his viral video. Here, He was just a man sharing lunch with friends, his usual barriers down. After they finished eating, Lily insisted on showing Ethan her collection of science books. She disappeared upstairs and returned with an armful of well-worn volumes. "This one's my favorite," she said, opening a book about the human body. "See? It shows how everything works together, like a perfect machine. Kind of like a car engine," Jack added with a smile. "Exactly," Lily beamed. "Everything has to work together just right." Ethan leaned in, genuinely interested as Lily explained various diagrams. "You know," he said, "I know some excellent doctors. If you're serious about medicine, I could introduce you to them someday." Jack tensed slightly at the offer, but Lily's eyes lit up. "Really? That would be amazing." "Let's take things one step at a time," Jack interjected gently. "You've got to get through middle school first, kiddo." As the afternoon wound down, Ethan helped clear the table despite Jack's protests. "Please," he said, "it's the least I can do. This has been nice, really nice." While loading the dishwasher, Ethan spoke quietly to Jack. "Thank you for this. I can't remember the last time I had such a normal, pleasant meal." Jack nodded, understanding in his eyes. Sometimes the simple things mean the most. When it was time for Ethan to leave, Lily gave him an impulsive hug. "You'll come back soon, right? Maybe you can help me practice my Dorothy lines." "I'd like that," Ethan replied, his voice slightly rough with emotion. As Jack walked Ethan to his car, Mrs. Peterson from next door was watering her flowers. She paused, hose in hand, watching them intently. When Ethan drove away, she leaned over the fence. "Jack," she called, her voice hushed but carrying clearly in the afternoon air. "Why's a billionaire hanging around the Turners? What's he after?" Jack frowned at her words, his earlier contentment fading. The morning sun barely pierced through the heavy clouds hanging over Main Street as Jack Turner walked to his garage. Something felt different today. People who usually waved now turned away, their whispers following him like shadows. Outside Miller's diner, Mrs. Henderson clutched her coffee cup tighter, nudging her friend Betty as Jack passed. "There he goes, our local celebrity. Guess fixing cars wasn't enough anymore." Jack's shoulders tensed, but he kept walking. The newspaper box outside caught his eye. There, on the front page of the Millbrook Herald, was a photo of him and Ethan outside the garage. The headline made his stomach turn. "Local Mechanic's Lucky Break. Billionaire Eyes Turner's Garage." He yanked open the box and pulled out a copy, coins clattering on the sidewalk. The article was worse than the headline. Anonymous sources claimed Ethan Caldwell was planning to buy the garage and turn it into a luxury car dealership. Jack's hands shook as he read quotes from concerned citizens worried about losing the town's only family-owned repair shop. At the garage, his regular customers seemed different too. Tom Wilson, whose truck Jack had maintained for 15 years, was oddly formal. "Heard you're moving up in the world, Jack. Good for you, I suppose." "That's not true, Tom. Nothing's changing here." Sure, Tom said, but his eyes said he didn't believe it. By lunchtime, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters asking about the deal, real estate agents offering to represent him. Even an old high school friend called to ask for a loan, assuming Jack was suddenly rich. "Daddy?" Lily appeared in the office doorway, her face worried. "Everyone at school's talking about us. Jenny said her mom thinks Mr. Caldwell is trying to buy our garage." Jack set down his wrench, wiping grease from his hands. "Come here, sweetheart." He pulled her into a hug, feeling her slight frame against his chest. "People like to talk, but that doesn't make it true." "I know, but..." Lily pulled back, her blue eyes serious. "Why are they being mean about it? Mr. Caldwell's nice. He listened to my whole story about the school play yesterday." Jack sighed, remembering how Ethan had sat at their kitchen table, genuinely laughing at Lily's dramatic retelling of her audition. For a moment, it had felt normal, right even. But now, the afternoon brought more whispers, more sideways glances. Jack tried to focus on his work, a transmission repair, 2 oil changes, a stubborn radiator leak, but the tension kept building. At 3 o'clock, Mayor Richards himself stopped by, all fake smiles and calculated concern. "Jack, my boy, I hope you'll consider the town's interests in any future business arrangements." "There are no arrangements," Jack said firmly, tightening a bolt with more force than necessary. "I'm not selling anything." Of course, of course. But if you were, the mayor's smile turned shrewd. We'd hate to lose our best mechanic to some corporate takeover. The words stung like acid. This garage was more than just a business. It was his father's legacy. The place where he'd first held hands with Sarah, his late wife. Where he'd taught Lily to change her first tire. Every tool, every oil stain, every worn floorboard held memories. Around 5, as Jack was closing up, his phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Saw the article. It's nonsense. Let me make a statement to set things straight. Jack's thumb hovered over the reply button. Before he could respond, he heard Lily's sharp intake of breath from the office. Daddy! Her voice was tight with pain. He found her slumped in the old office chair, one hand pressed to her chest, her face pale and slightly blue around the lips. The heart murmur, just like her mother's. I can't. It's hard to. She tried to speak between shallow breaths. Don't talk, baby. Just breathe. Jack scooped her up like she was still 5 years old, his own heart thundering. He grabbed his keys with trembling fingers, mentally calculating the fastest route to the hospital. In the truck, Lily's breathing slowly steadied, but her face remained too pale. Jack kept glancing at her as he drove, memories of Sarah's final days flooding back. The same symptoms, the same scared look in those blue eyes. Later that night, in Lily's dim hospital room, Jack watched his daughter sleep. The doctor said it was a minor episode, that she'd be fine with rest, but fear had made a home in his chest. The steady beep of the heart monitor marked each precious breath. In his pocket, Ethan's business card seemed to burn. The embossed letters caught the light. Ethan Caldwell, CEO, Caldwell Enterprises. Jack pulled it out, turning it over in his hands. Ethan had resources, connections, access to the best medical care money could buy. But trusting him meant opening their lives to more scrutiny, more gossip, more risk. Jack stared at the card, then at Lily's peaceful face. Trust or fear? The choice weighed heavy as iron in his hands. The monitor beeped steadily in the quiet room, while outside, the town's whispers grew louder, and Jack Turner sat caught between two worlds, watching his daughter breathe. Jack paced his small kitchen, phone in hand. The morning light filtered through the worn curtains his late wife had picked out years ago. His thumb hovered over Ethan's number for what felt like the 100th time. Finally, taking a deep breath, he pressed call. Jack? Ethan's voice carried genuine warmth. Everything okay? Jack ran a hand through his hair, glancing at Lily's closed bedroom door. It's about Lily. Could you stop by? Not for money, he added quickly. Just need to talk about some things. Her future and all that. Give me 30 minutes, Ethan replied without hesitation. 28 minutes later, a knock echoed through the house. Jack opened the door to find Ethan balancing paper grocery bags in his arms. His usual tailored suit replaced by casual jeans and a sweater. Thought we might need supplies, Ethan said with an easy smile, stepping inside. He set the bags on the counter and started unpacking fresh vegetables, pasta, and what looked like homemade bread. My mother always said serious conversations go better with good food. Jack found himself relaxing slightly. You cook? Actually, yes. One of the few things I learned from my mom before. Ethan's voice trailed off. He busied himself arranging ingredients. So, tell me about Lily. Jack leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. Her heart condition. It's getting worse. Doctor says she might need surgery eventually. But that's not even what keeps me up at night. She's smart, brilliant, really. Wants to go to college, become a doctor herself. He swallowed hard. I've been putting money aside, but with medical bills. Jack, Ethan started, but Jack held up a hand. I'm not asking for money. How do I tell her to dream smaller? That maybe community college is more realistic? Ethan was quiet for a moment, methodically chopping vegetables. You don't, he finally said. You never tell a child to dream smaller. Easy for you to say, Jack muttered. No, listen. Ethan set down his knife. I told my son to dream bigger, pushed him toward what I thought success meant. Now he won't even take my calls. You've got something special with Lily. She dreams big because you've given her roots and wings both. The sound of a door opening interrupted them. Lily appeared, still in her pajamas, her dark hair mussed from sleep. Her face lit up when she saw Ethan. Uncle Ethan, she exclaimed, giving him a quick hug before peering at the counter. "Are you making dinner? If your dad doesn't mind," Ethan replied, looking at Jack questioningly. Jack hesitated, then nodded. "Guess we could use a home-cooked meal." The afternoon unfolded slowly, filled with the sounds of chopping, sizzling, and Lily's steady stream of questions about everything from Ethan's favorite books to whether he'd ever been to Paris. Jack watched as Ethan patiently answered each one, showing Lily how to properly dice an onion and explaining why fresh basil made all the difference in pasta sauce. "Dad never lets me help cook," Lily said, carefully stirring the sauce. "That's because you once tried to make toast with peanut butter still on the knife," Jack reminded her, but he was smiling. As the kitchen filled with warm aromas, Jack noticed something else filling the house: laughter. Real, genuine laughter. Lily's giggles mixed with Ethan's deep chuckles, and Jack found himself joining in despite his earlier reservations. They ate at the small kitchen table, the same one where Jack had taught Lily to write her name and helped with countless homework assignments. The pasta was better than anything Jack had tasted in years. "This is amazing," Lily declared, twirling another forkful. "Can you teach Dad to cook like this?" "Hey now," Jack protested, but without heat. "Actually," Ethan said, "cooking is a lot like fixing cars. It's all about understanding how different parts work together, having the right tools, and most importantly," he winked at Jack, "patience." After dinner, they moved to the living room. Lily insisted on showing Ethan her science fair project, a detailed model of the human heart. Jack watched as Ethan listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that made Lily's eyes shine with excitement. "The left ventricle is the strongest chamber," Lily explained, pointing to her model. "It has to be, to pump blood to the whole body." "Just like you," Ethan said softly. "Strong heart." Lily beamed at him, then curled up on the couch between the two men as they watched her favorite documentary about space exploration. The evening settled into a comfortable quiet, broken only by Lily's occasional comments about the stars. Jack glanced over sometime later to find Lily had dozed off, her head resting against Ethan's shoulder. The billionaire sat perfectly still, as if afraid to disturb her. "This is the best night ever," Lily murmured sleepily, nestling closer before drifting off completely. Lily stood in the Turners' cramped living room, dramatically clutching her chest. "But soft! What light through yonder window breaks?" She gestured toward their old floor lamp, with such enthusiasm that it wobbled precariously. "It is the east, and Juliet is the sun," Ethan prompted from his perch on their worn armchair holding the script. His tie was loosened, jacket draped over the couch, looking more at home than he ever had in his penthouse office. "That's not my line," Lily giggled, flopping onto the sofa. "I'm Juliet, remember? I don't say Romeo's parts." Jack watched from the kitchen doorway, drying a plate with a dishcloth. A week ago, the sight of a billionaire in his living room would have made him nervous. Now, it felt natural seeing Ethan here, helping Lily prepare for her high school production of Romeo and Juliet. "My mistake," Ethan chuckled, flipping through the dog-eared script. "Here we go, Act 2, Scene 2. Your line starts with, 'Oh, Romeo, Romeo.'" "Oh, Romeo, Romeo," Lily sprang up, throwing her arms wide. "Wherefore art thou Romeo?" Her voice carried the perfect mix of longing and confusion, making both men smile. "You're getting really good at this, sweetheart," Jack said, setting down his towel and joining them in the living room. Ethan nodded in agreement. "She's a natural. The drama teacher made an excellent choice casting her as Juliet." Lily beamed at the praise, then checked the clock. "Oh, Dad, we need to get to the community center. The fundraiser planning meeting starts in 20 minutes. "Right," Jack said, reaching for his keys. "Ethan, you coming?" "Wouldn't miss it," Ethan replied, gathering his jacket. "Though I still think you should let me handle all the expenses." Jack shook his head as they headed for the door. "The whole point is community involvement. People need to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves." The short drive to the community center gave Jack time to reflect on how much had changed. When Ethan first proposed sponsoring a fundraiser for local youth programs, Jack had been skeptical. But Ethan had insisted on taking a backseat role, letting the townspeople lead while he provided quiet support and guidance. The community center's meeting room was already buzzing with activity when they arrived. Mrs. Henderson, from the library, was arranging chairs, while Mr. Peterson from the hardware store wrote ideas on a whiteboard. "Jack," Ethan? Mrs. Henderson called out. And little Lily? Come see what we've planned. For the next hour, they discussed everything from bake sale arrangements to musical performances. Lily suggested setting up a face painting station, which earned enthusiastic approval from the group. And look at these, Mr. Peterson said, unfolding architectural drawings. Ethan helped us design the new Youth Center addition. Perfect timing, too, with winter coming. Jack studied the plans, impressed by how they maintained the building's historic charm while adding modern amenities. He glanced at Ethan, who was pointing out details to an excited Lily. The construction crew can start next week, Ethan explained, right after the fundraiser. We'll have it ready before the first snow. The meeting wrapped up with renewed energy, everyone chattering about their assigned tasks. As people filtered out, Lily helped Mrs. Henderson stack chairs while Jack and Ethan reviewed the final budget. You've done something special here, Jack said quietly. These people don't see you as just a wealthy outsider anymore. You're part of the community now. Ethan's eyes softened. That means more to me than you know. After years of board meetings and corporate decisions, he gestured around the room, this feels real. Lily bounded over, her ponytail swinging. Dad, can we stop for ice cream on the way home to celebrate how well the planning went? Before Jack could answer, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and froze, color draining from his face. Everything okay? Jack asked, concerned. Ethan's hand trembled slightly as he held up the phone. It's Noah, my son. He wants to meet for coffee tomorrow. Lily squealed and hugged him impulsively. That's wonderful. Ethan's voice cracked. He cleared his throat and tried again. I haven't seen him in person for over 2 years. Just a few tense phone calls. Jack placed a steady hand on his friend's shoulder. This is good news, Ethan. A start. What if I mess it up again? Ethan whispered, looking more vulnerable than Jack had ever seen him. You won't, Lily said firmly. You're different now. Noah will see that. Ethan took a deep breath and typed a quick reply. When he looked up, his eyes were bright with unshed tears and hope. He wants to meet at that little cafe on Main Street. Says he's heard good things about the town from the video that went viral. See? Lily grinned. Everything happens for a reason, even broken down cars. Jack smiled at his daughter's wisdom. Come on, let's get that ice cream. We've got a lot to celebrate today. They walked out into the crisp autumn evening, leaves crunching under their feet. Ethan kept glancing at his phone, rereading Noah's message as if afraid it might disappear. His hand still trembled slightly, but there was a new lightness in his step, a cautious joy that seemed to lift years from his face. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, casting long shadows across Main Street. As they headed toward the ice cream parlor, Jack watched Ethan and Lily walk ahead, discussing her upcoming play. His daughter's laughter mixed with Ethan's deeper chuckle, creating a harmony that felt right, felt like family. The simple pleasure of the moment struck Jack. A billionaire and a mechanic's daughter debating the merits of different ice cream flavors, while hope bloomed quiet and strong as a prayer answered. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges with Noah's visit, but for now, this was enough. Ethan's hands trembled as he straightened his tie for the 10th time. The small-town cafe seemed too quaint for such a momentous meeting, with its mismatched chairs and hand-painted menu boards. But that was exactly why he'd chosen it. No pretense, no power plays, just coffee and truth. Through the window, he spotted Noah approaching. His son had grown taller since they'd last met, his dark hair longer now. He wore simple jeans and a faded band t-shirt, so different from Ethan's tailored suit. Noah hesitated at the door, and Ethan's heart clenched. Would he turn away? But Noah pushed through, the bell above jingling softly. His eyes found Ethan's immediately. They held the same guarded look Jack had warned him about. He'll be watching for signs you're still the same man who chose work over him. Hi, Dad, Noah said quietly, sliding into the booth. Noah, Ethan's voice cracked. Thank you for coming. A waitress approached with a warm smile. What can I get you, boys? Just coffee, black, Noah said. The same, Ethan added, though he usually preferred expensive lattes. This wasn't about appearances anymore. Silence stretched between them as they waited. Ethan recalled Jack's advice from yesterday. Don't hide behind small talk. Say what's in your heart, even if it hurts. I've been thinking about your 10th birthday, Ethan began, his fingers fidgeting with a paper napkin. The one I missed for the Tokyo merger. Noah's jaw tightened. Which one? You missed 3 birthdays that year. I deserve that, Ethan admitted. I deserve all of it. The anger, the disappointment. I was wrong, Noah. So terribly wrong. The waitress returned with their coffees. Noah wrapped his hands around the mug but didn't drink. What changed? He asked finally. Why now? Ethan thought of Jack's garage, of watching him with Lily. I met someone who showed me what real fatherhood looks like. Not through lectures or books, but by living it every day. He made me see what I threw away, chasing success. The mechanic from your video? Noah's eyes showed a flicker of interest. I saw it online. Jack Turner. Ethan nodded. He has this daughter, Lily. The way he looks at her. It's how I should have looked at you. Like nothing else matters. Noah took a sip of coffee, his shoulders relaxing slightly. Mom used to say you weren't always like that. That before the company took off, you used to read me stories. Where the wild things are, Ethan smiled sadly. You knew every word by heart. But somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that providing for you meant more than being present. I was wrong, son. So wrong. You can't buy back lost time, Dad. I know. Ethan's voice wavered. I'm not asking to erase the past. I'm asking for a chance to be different now. To listen. To show up. To be the father you deserved all along. Noah studied his father's face. Jack taught you that too? He said something that hit me hard. He said, every morning I wake up knowing I could lose my daughter to her heart condition. But that just makes me love her harder today. It made me realize I've already lost so much time with you. I don't want to lose any more. Tears pricked at Noah's eyes. He blinked them away quickly. I'm playing a show next weekend. Small club downtown. Ethan's heart leaped. You're still making music? Yeah. Not exactly the business career you wanted for me, but I want to hear you play, Ethan interrupted. If you'll let me come. Noah looked surprised. Really? No lecture about practical career choices? No lectures. Just a father who wants to know his son. They sat in silence for a moment, but it felt different now. Lighter somehow. It's at 8, Noah said finally. The Blue Room on Mason Street. I'll be there. Ethan hesitated, then added, front row? A ghost of a smile crossed Noah's face. Maybe second row. Don't want to cramp my style too much. They finished their coffees, talking about Noah's band and his recent move to a new apartment. When they stood to leave, Noah paused. Dad? Yes? Thanks for trying. Ethan wanted to hug him but settled for a nod, respecting the fragile new bridge between them. As soon as Noah's figure disappeared around the corner, Ethan rushed to his car. His heart felt lighter than it had in years. He drove straight to Turner's garage, barely remembering to put the car in park before jumping out. The familiar smell of oil and metal greeted him as he burst through the door. Jack looked up from under the hood of an old pickup truck, wiping his hands on a rag. He agreed to see me again, Ethan announced, grinning like a schoolboy. Jack clapped his shoulder, pride shining in his eyes. Told you honesty would work better than a fancy restaurant. The autumn sun painted Turner's garage in warm honey gold light. A gentle breeze carried the sweet scent of fallen leaves through the open bay doors, where 3 figures huddled around a rusty blue bicycle propped on a metal stand. Hand me that wrench, would you, Lily? Ethan asked, his usually pristine dress shirt rolled up to his elbows and smudged with grease. Lily bounced over to the toolbox, her ponytail swinging. The big one or the little one? The 9? 16. Jack called from where he was adjusting the bike's derailleur. When Lily looked confused, he smiled. The medium-sized one, sweetheart. Ethan watched the easy interaction between father and daughter, his heart warming. A month ago, he would have paid someone else to fix a bicycle. Now here he was, learning from Jack how to repair the old Schwinn they'd found at a yard sale. You're getting pretty good at this, Mr. Caldwell, Lily said, handing him the wrench. Maybe Dad should hire you, Jack chuckled. I don't think my salary would match what he's used to. Oh, I don't know, Ethan replied, tightening a bolt on the handlebars. The benefits seem pretty great to me. He winked at Lily, who beamed. Mrs. Martinez from the bakery next door poked her head in, carrying a plate of still warm chocolate chip cookies. Thought you all might need a snack, she said with a warm smile. Ethan, it's so nice seeing you around town these days. Thank you, Rosa, Ethan said, accepting the plate. The town's initial suspicion had begun melting away as people saw him regularly working alongside Jack. attending Lily's school events, and stopping to chat at the local diner. Lily grabbed a cookie and perched on a nearby stool.
"Tell us more about Noah, Mr. Caldwell. Is he excited about meeting up again?"
Ethan's hand stilled on the bicycle. "He Island, we're having dinner next week." He paused, then added softly, "It's the first time he's agreed to more than just coffee in 3 years." Jack looked up, understanding in his eyes. "That's progress, my friend. Real progress." A comfortable silence fell as they worked, broken only by the clinking of tools and Lily's occasional humming. The bicycle was slowly transforming under their careful attention, its chrome beginning to shine and its gears moving smoothly. "You know what this bike needs?" Lily declared suddenly. "A bell, a really pretty silver one." "Already thought of that," Ethan said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small paper bag and handed it to her. Inside was a classic silver bell with delicate etching. Lily's eyes lit up. "It's perfect. Can we put it on now?" Jack watched as Ethan showed Lily how to attach the bell, his hands gentle and patient as he guided her through the process. It struck Jack how different this Ethan was from the polished businessman who'd first broken down outside his garage. The sharp edges had softened, replaced by something more genuine. As the afternoon wore on, more townspeople stopped by. Old Mr. Jenkins from the hardware store brought them cold sodas. Sarah from the library dropped off some books she thought Lily might enjoy. Each visitor seemed to linger a little longer than necessary, drawn by the comfortable atmosphere and easy laughter. "Looking good," called Tommy, a local teenager, as he rode past on his skateboard.
"Mr. Caldwell, are you coming to the community center fundraiser next week?"
"Wouldn't miss it," Ethan replied, and he meant it. These small-town events that he once would have dismissed as trivial now felt important, meaningful. By late afternoon, the bicycle gleamed in the slanting sunlight. Its fenders were polished to a mirror shine, the chain ran smooth as silk, and the new bell rang out clear and sweet. Lily circled the garage on it, her laughter echoing off the walls. "Not bad for a day's work," Jack said, wiping his hands on a rag. "You're a natural, Ethan." "I had a good teacher," Ethan replied. He watched Lily pedaling, her joy infectious. "This is what I missed with Noah. All these small moments." Jack squeezed his shoulder. "You can't change the past, but you're here now learning. That counts for something." As the sun began to set, Lily wheeled her bike inside and hugged both men. "Best Saturday ever," she declared. "Can we do this again next weekend?" "We'll see," Jack said, kissing the top of her head. "Now go get cleaned up for dinner." After Lily bounded inside, Jack and Ethan settled into the old wooden chairs on the front porch. The evening air was cool and sweet, stars beginning to twinkle in the deepening blue sky. Cricket song filled the comfortable silence between them. Ethan leaned back, feeling more at peace than he had in years. "You know, I used to think success meant having the biggest house, the fastest car, the most impressive portfolio." Jack raised an eyebrow. "And now?" "Now," Ethan gestured to the quiet street, the friendly wave from a passing neighbor, the sound of Lily's bell ringing from inside. "Now, I think maybe success looks more like this." Jack chuckled. "Welcome to the simple life." They sat together as darkness settled over the town, sharing stories and easy laughter under the stars. Two men from different worlds, who had somehow found common ground in a small-town garage, brought together by a broken-down car and the magic of second chances. The morning sun had barely touched the windows of Turner's garage when Jack noticed the first camera flash. He was opening up shop, coffee in hand, ready for another ordinary day. But ordinary vanished the moment he saw the newspaper someone had thrown onto his doorstep. "Billionaire buys mechanic's love," screamed the headline in bold black letters. Below it, a grainy photo showed Ethan's hand on Jack's shoulder from the fundraiser, twisted to look intimate and calculating. Jack's stomach churned as he scanned the article, filled with anonymous sources claiming Ethan was manipulating a struggling single father. "Dad?" Lily appeared behind him, already dressed for school. "What's wrong?" Before Jack could shield her from the paper, more camera flashes exploded around them. Reporters materialized from behind parked cars, microphones thrust forward like weapons. "Mr. Turner, how much is Ethan Caldwell paying you? Is it true he's trying to buy your garage? What about your daughter's medical condition?" Jack's protective instincts flared. He wrapped an arm around Lily, who pressed against him, trembling. "No comment," he growled, trying to guide her back inside. Sources say Mr. Caldwell has been buying your daughter's affection with expensive gifts. That's not true, Lily protested. But Jack hushed her gently. They retreated into the garage office, closing the blinds against the pressing faces and cameras. Jack's hands shook as he called Lily's school, arranging for her to stay home. She sat in his old leather chair, hugging herself. Daddy, why are they saying those awful things? Ethan's our friend. Jack looked at his daughter, his sweet, trusting daughter, and felt his heart crack. The article had exposed Lily's heart condition to the world, something they'd kept private since Sarah died. Now it was being used as ammunition in some twisted story about manipulation and money. The phone rang. It was Mrs. Peterson canceling her oil change appointment. Then Mr. Rodriguez called to postpone his break work. By 10 o'clock, half his day's schedule had evaporated. They think I sold out, Jack muttered, pacing the small office. They think I'm letting some rich guy buy his way into our lives. Lily's eyes welled with tears. But you're not. We're not. Can't we just tell them the truth? A sharp knock at the door made them both jump. Jack opened it cautiously to find more reporters, more cameras, more shouted questions. He slammed it shut, but not before hearing, "Is it true your late wife died of the same heart condition your daughter has?" That was the final straw. Jack's chest tightened with fury and grief. Sarah's memory didn't deserve to be dragged through this mud. The sound of an expensive car engine cut through the chaos outside. Jack knew without looking that it was Ethan's Bentley. Sure enough, moments later, his phone buzzed with Ethan's number. "Jack, I just saw the papers. I'm so sorry. My lawyers are already—" "Your lawyers?" Jack's voice came out harsh. "Is that your answer to everything? Throw money at it?" "No, I just want to help. They're attacking you. Because of me." "Maybe that's the problem. Maybe everything you touch turns into this circus." Through the blinds, Jack watched Ethan step out of his car, phone still to his ear. The reporters swarmed him like sharks scenting blood. Unlike Jack, Ethan knew how to handle them, raising his hands diplomatically and offering practice statements about friendship and community. It looked so easy for him, so polished, so fake. "I trusted you," Jack said into the phone. "I let you into our lives. Jack, please, you know me better than that now. What they're saying isn't true." "Do I know you? Really?" Jack watched Ethan smile for the cameras. "Because the man I thought I knew wouldn't have turned my daughter's medical condition into gossip fodder. I didn't. I would never." "Then how did they find out? Who else knew besides you?" Silence crackled between them. Outside, the reporters were eating up Ethan's presence, their cameras clicking frantically. "I might have mentioned it to Noah," Ethan admitted quietly. "When I was explaining why your family means so much to me, he must have told someone." Jack's free hand clenched into a fist. "Right. Because everything's about fixing your relationship with your son, even if it means destroying my daughter's privacy in the process. That's not fair, Jack." "Fair?" Jack's voice rose. "Fair is being able to raise my daughter in peace. Fair is protecting what's left of my family. Fair is not having Sarah's death turned into entertainment." He saw Ethan flinch through the window. "Good. I'm coming inside," Ethan said. "We need to talk about this face to face." "No," Jack's tone was final. "No more talks, no more advice, no more friendship." But Ethan was already pushing through the reporters, heading for the garage's side door. Jack hung up and met him there, stepping outside despite the renewed frenzy of the press. "Jack, just listen. You've brought nothing but chaos into our lives," Jack shouted, not caring who heard anymore. The words burst from him like shrapnel, sharp and destructive. He watched the color drain from Ethan's face, watched the polished mask crack to reveal raw hurt underneath. For a moment, Ethan looked exactly like what he was, a lonely man who'd gambled on friendship and lost everything. Without another word, Ethan turned and walked away. The reporters parted around him, their cameras capturing every step of his defeat. Jack stood in the doorway, his anger already cooling into something worse, the sick certainty that he'd just destroyed something precious. Inside, he heard Lily crying. The high school auditorium buzzed with activity as students prepared for their upcoming play. Lily stood center stage, her voice clear and strong as she delivered her lines. Jack watched from the back row, taking a rare break from the garage to see his daughter rehearse. Pride swelled in his chest as she commanded the stage, her presence lighting up the room just like her mother used to. But halfway through her monologue, something changed. Lily's voice faltered, her hand moving to her chest. Jack sat up straighter, his heart racing as he recognized the signs. Her face went pale, and before anyone could react, her knees buckled. "Lily!" Jack's shout echoed through the auditorium as he sprinted down the aisle. He reached the stage just as Lily crumpled to the floor, her body limp like a rag doll. The drama teacher was already calling 911 while other students backed away, their faces frozen in shock. Jack gathered his daughter in his arms, her skin clammy and cool to the touch. "Baby, can you hear me?" His voice cracked as memories of his wife's final days flooded back, the same pallor, the same terrifying stillness. "Please, sweetheart, open your eyes." Lily's eyelids fluttered, but she remained unconscious. Jack could feel her heart racing beneath his palm, its rhythm irregular and weak. The sound of approaching sirens pierced the air, but for Jack, time had stopped. He held his daughter close, whispering prayers into her hair. The paramedics burst through the auditorium doors with practiced efficiency. They gently but firmly moved Jack aside, their voices calm and professional as they assessed Lily's condition. Jack stood nearby, his hands trembling as he answered their questions about her medical history. "She has a heart condition," he explained, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. A murmur, just like her mother. The last part came out as barely a whisper. The ride to the hospital was a blur of flashing lights and steady beeping from the monitors. Jack held Lily's hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm like he used to do when she was little and scared of thunderstorms. Now he was the one who was terrified. In the emergency room, doctors and nurses swarmed around Lily while Jack was forced to wait outside. He paced the sterile hallway, his work boots leaving scuff marks on the polished floor. Each time the door opened, he jumped, hoping for news. After what felt like hours, a doctor emerged. "Mr. Turner, your daughter is stable now. We're moving her to a room for observation." The doctor's voice was kind, but concerned. "The episode appears to be related to her heart condition. We'd like to run some additional tests." Jack followed them as they wheeled Lily to a private room. She looked so small in the hospital bed, surrounded by beeping machines and IV lines. Her eyes opened briefly, and she managed a weak smile. "Daddy? I'm here, baby." Jack took her hand, forcing his voice to stay steady. "I'm right here. The play," she mumbled. "Don't worry about that now," Jack soothed, brushing hair from her forehead. "Just rest." Lily drifted off to sleep, leaving Jack alone with his thoughts and fears. He sat in the uncomfortable chair beside her bed, watching the rise and fall of her chest. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor reminded him of another hospital room, another bedside vigil. His wife's final days played through his mind like a movie he couldn't stop. The sound of footsteps in the hallway caught his attention. Through the window in the door, he glimpsed Ethan's familiar silhouette. The billionaire stood there, concern etched on his face, one hand raised as if to push the door open. Jack's jaw clenched. The morning's tabloid headlines flashed through his mind, along with all the chaos of the past weeks. He turned away from the door, focusing instead on Lily's peaceful face. "I can't let anyone in," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "Not again." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of past loss and present fear. Jack squeezed Lily's hand gently, his shoulders hunched against the pain of pushing away someone who had become so important to them both. In the hallway, Ethan remained frozen, one hand still raised toward the door. Tears glimmered in his eyes as he watched father and daughter through the window, knowing he couldn't cross that threshold. The distance between them felt like miles, though it was only a few feet of hospital corridor. After a long moment, Ethan's hand dropped to his side. He stood there, wrestling with the urge to burst in and offer help, comfort, anything. But he knew Jack well enough now to understand that sometimes love meant stepping back, even when it hurt. A nurse walked past, giving Ethan a questioning look. He wiped his eyes quickly and took one last look at the Turners through the window. Jack sat vigilant by Lily's bedside, his posture a mirror of the protective wall he'd built around his heart. The scene was both beautiful and heartbreaking. A father's love so deep it could heal or hurt, shelter or isolate. Inside the room, Jack continued his quiet vigil, unaware of Ethan's internal struggle. His world had narrowed to the sound of Lily's breathing and the steady beep of monitors. He'd lost his wife to a heart condition. He couldn't bear the thought of losing his daughter, too. And if keeping her safe meant shutting everyone else out, then that's what he would do. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the hospital window as father and daughter remained still in their bubble of isolation, while outside, a friend who had become family stood helpless, separated by more than just a door. The penthouse's floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city lights twinkling below, but Ethan Caldwell felt no comfort in the luxurious solitude. His Italian leather shoes clicked against the marble floors as he paced, phone in hand, watching the viral video that had started everything. This man didn't just fix my car, he fixed something in me. His own voice, raw with emotion, echoed through the empty space. He paused the video, studying Jack's weathered face in the thumbnail. The mechanic's honest eyes and genuine smile seemed to mock him now. Ethan's gaze drifted to the collection of framed magazine covers on his wall, Forbes, Fortune, Business Weekly, all celebrating his success. World's most influential philanthropist, one headline declared. He let out a bitter laugh. What good was all this influence if he couldn't protect the people he cared about? His phone buzzed. For a moment, hope fluttered in his chest. Maybe Noah had finally called back. But it was just another news alert. Small-town mechanic's daughter hospitalized. Billionaire's involvement questioned. No, Ethan muttered, running his fingers through his silver-streaked hair. He tried Noah's number again, knowing it was futile. 1 ring, 2 rings. Straight to voicemail. Son, I know I messed up. Again. But please, I need to talk to you. His voice cracked. I finally understood what it means to be a father by watching Jack with Lily. And now. He trailed off, ending the call. The penthouse felt suffocating despite its vastness. Designer, furniture, abstract art worth millions. A wine collection that would make collectors weep, all of it meaningless. In the kitchen, he noticed Lily's cookie recipe still stuck to his refrigerator with a smiley face magnet she'd given him. For when you're lonely, she'd said with that bright smile of hers. Ethan's knees gave out. He sank to the cold marble floor, the weight of everything crushing down on him. Jack's words echoed in his mind. You've brought nothing but chaos into our lives. God, he whispered, his forehead touching the floor. I don't do this often. Maybe that's part of the problem. His shoulders shook. I've spent my whole life thinking I could fix everything with money. But I can't fix this. I can't fix my son. I can't fix Jack's trust. I can't fix Lily's heart. Tears fell freely now, dotting the imported marble. Please, show me how to make this right. Show me how to be the man they believed I could be. He stayed there, kneeling, until his legs went numb. The city lights continued their distant dance, and somewhere in a hospital room, a teenage girl fought for breath while her father kept lonely vigil. Slowly, Ethan pushed himself up. His reflection in the window caught his eye-disheveled hair, tear-stained cheeks, rumpled suit. Gone was the polished billionaire. In his place stood just a man, broken and humbled. He walked to his desk and pulled out a legal pad. With trembling hands, he began to write. Not a press release or a business plan, but a letter to Jack. Dear Jack, I once asked you to fix my heart like you fixed my car. Instead, you and Lily showed me I had a heart worth fixing. The tabloids can say what they want about me, but you need to know the truth. 3 pages later, Ethan set down his pen. It wasn't enough. Words could never be enough, but it was a start. He folded the letter carefully and slipped it into his jacket pocket. His phone buzzed again. Another news alert. Sources claim Caldwell orchestrated viral video for publicity. Ethan deleted the alert without reading further. For the first time in his life, he didn't care what the press said about him. The only opinions that mattered belonged to a mechanic and his daughter. He walked to his bedroom and opened his safe. Inside lay documents he'd been preparing since he first learned about Lily's condition arrangements with the best cardiac specialists, plans for treatment, everything money could buy. He'd held back, afraid of overstepping, afraid of proving Jack right about him trying to buy love. But now, looking at the papers, Ethan realized something. True love meant acting even when you were afraid. It meant doing what was right, even if it cost you everything. He gathered the documents and his letter, sliding them into a manila envelope. The clock on his wall read 2:37 a.m. Outside his window, the city slept, but in a hospital room across town, he knew Jack would be awake, watching his daughter breathe. Ethan straightened his tie and grabbed his keys. He couldn't fix everything with money, Jack had taught him that. But he could show up. He could stand beside them in the storm. He could prove that the man in that viral video, the one who spoke of being changed, wasn't just a performance for the cameras. Looking around his penthouse one last time, Ethan felt the hollow echo of his former life. All these possessions, this carefully curated image of success, none of it mattered compared to the simple truth he'd learned in a small-town garage. Real wealth lay in the courage to love without guarantees. He stepped into his private elevator, envelope clutched to his chest. The decision crystallized in his heart, clear and unshakable. He wouldn't let Jack and Lily face this alone. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The hospital lobby buzzed with activity as reporters jostled for position, their cameras and microphones at the ready. Security guards formed a protective barrier, trying to maintain order in the crowded space. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Ethan Caldwell's face as he approached the hastily assembled podium. His normally immaculate suit was wrinkled, his tie slightly crooked. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, evidence of a sleepless night. But there was determination in his stance as he gripped the edges of the podium, looking directly into the sea of cameras. "Thank you all for coming," Ethan began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "I've called this press conference to address the recent stories circulating about my relationship with Jack Turner and his daughter Lily." The reporters leaned forward, hungry for the next viral moment. Ethan took a deep breath, remembering Jack's honest eyes and Lily's bright smile. "Many of you have speculated about my motives. Some have suggested I'm trying to buy influence or goodwill. Others have painted Jack as someone looking to profit from our friendship." Ethan's knuckles whitened on the podium. Nothing could be further from the truth. Up in Lily's hospital room, Jack sat beside his daughter's bed, the TV mounted on the wall showing Ethan's press conference. He started to reach for the remote to turn it off, but something in Ethan's expression made him pause. "When my car broke down that rainy night, I was just another stranded motorist to Jack Turner. He didn't see a billionaire or a social media influencer. He saw someone who needed help, and he provided it with skill, integrity, and genuine kindness." Ethan's voice cracked slightly. "This isn't about money. This is about a mechanic who taught me to love again. He fixed my car, yes, but more importantly, he fixed my heart." In the hospital room, Lily stirred in her sleep. Jack squeezed her hand gently, his eyes fixed on the screen. "You see, I've spent years building wealth, acquiring possessions, thinking that success meant having the most expensive things." Ethan gestured to his designer suit. "But Jack Turner showed me what real wealth looks like. It's in the way he loves his daughter. It's in how he carries on his father's legacy through that garage. It's in the quiet dignity with which he faces every challenge." Several nurses had gathered in the hallway outside Lily's room, watching the TV mounted at the nurses' station. One wiped at her eyes with the sleeve of her scrubs. "I've made many mistakes in my life," Ethan continued, his polish falling away to reveal raw honesty. "I lost my relationship with my own son because I thought providing money was the same as providing love. Jack Turner showed me the difference. He showed me that true fatherhood isn't about what you can buy. It's about being present, being genuine, being willing to put someone else's needs before your own." The cameras continued to flash, but the reporters had grown quiet, caught up in the emotion of Ethan's words. "To those who've questioned Jack's character, you couldn't be more wrong. He never asked me for a dime. In fact, he's refused my offers of help multiple times. He's taught me more about integrity in a few weeks than I learned in decades of business deals." Jack felt his throat tighten as he watched. A nurse stepped into the room to check Lily's vitals, her eyes red-rimmed from crying at Ethan's speech. "And Lily," Ethan's voice softened with affection, "that remarkable young lady has shown me more joy and wisdom than any adult I've met. She welcomed me without judgment, shared her cookies and her dreams, and helped me remember what it feels like to simply be part of a family." More hospital staff had gathered in the hallway. Jack could hear sniffles and whispered conversations through the partially open door. "I stand here today not as Ethan Caldwell the billionaire, but as a man who was lost and found his way thanks to two extraordinary people. If there's any story worth telling here, It's not about money or influence or power. It's about how a humble mechanic and his daughter taught a prideful man the true meaning of wealth. Ethan gripped the podium tighter, his next words directed not at the cameras, but at the hospital building behind him. Jack, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Sorry for the chaos. Sorry for the invasion of your privacy. Sorry for any pain I've caused. But I'm not sorry for the friendship we built. You and Lily changed my life, and I'll spend the rest of my days trying to be worthy of that gift. Jack felt the anger that had been burning in his chest begin to soften. He looked at his sleeping daughter, then back at the screen where Ethan stood, vulnerable and sincere before the world. To the media and the public, I ask you to respect the Turners' privacy. They deserve to live their lives in peace, away from speculation and scrutiny. If you want a story, write about how a small-town mechanic's integrity and kindness changed a billionaire's heart. That's the only headline that matters. The nurses in the hallway were openly crying now, passing tissues among themselves as they watched. Jack felt his own eyes growing moist as Ethan's words washed over him, carrying away the hurt and suspicion of the past few days. Through the window of Lily's room, he could see the crowd gathered below in the hospital parking lot, where Ethan stood facing the cameras. But for the first time, Jack didn't see a wealthy man putting on a show. He saw his friend, broken, honest, and fighting for their friendship with everything he had. The anger that had been Jack's shield since Lily's collapse began to crumble. He watched as Ethan fielded questions from reporters with grace and unwavering sincerity, defending Jack's character and deflecting any attempts to sensationalize their story. A gentle squeeze on his hand drew his attention back to Lily. She was still sleeping peacefully, her face serene despite the monitors and tubes surrounding her. Jack thought about how she'd seen the good in Ethan from the very beginning, while he'd let fear and suspicion cloud his judgment. Outside his daughter's room, the nurses continued to dab at their eyes, moved by the raw emotion of Ethan's words. Their reactions, genuine and unscripted, confirmed what Jack's heart had known all along. Ethan Caldwell was more than his wealth and reputation. He was a man seeking redemption, friendship, and the chance to be better than his past. The morning after Ethan's press conference, Dr. Sarah Chen strode into Lily's hospital room with a warm smile and an air of quiet confidence. Her white coat was crisp, and her dark hair was neatly tied back. Jack sat in the worn hospital chair beside Lily's bed, his shoulders tense from another sleepless night. Mr. Turner, Dr. Chen said, extending her hand. I'm the cardiac specialist who'll be overseeing Lily's care. Jack shook her hand, confusion crossing his tired face. I thought Dr. Peterson was handling Lily's case? There's been a change. Dr. Chen pulled up a chair and opened Lily's chart on her tablet. I specialize in pediatric cardiac surgery, particularly in cases like Lily's. I've flown in from Boston to personally oversee her treatment. Lily, pale but curious, perked up in her hospital bed. Boston? That's so far away. Indeed it is. Dr. Chen smiled at her. But when I heard about your case, I knew I could help. Jack's brow furrowed. I don't understand. We can't afford. Everything has been arranged, Dr. Chen assured him. All expenses are covered, including any follow-up care Lily might need. By who? Jack's voice grew sharp with suspicion. Dr. Chen glanced at her tablet. The donor wished to remain anonymous, but she paused, checking her notes. Oh, I should mention that Mr. Caldwell specifically requested regular updates on Lily's progress. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The pieces clicked into place, and he felt his chest tighten with emotion. Ethan, he whispered. Daddy? Lily reached for his hand. Is everything okay? Jack squeezed her fingers gently. Yeah, sweetheart. Everything's fine. He turned back to Dr. Chen. Could you give us a minute? After the doctor left, Jack sat in silence, processing the revelation. Lily watched him with concerned eyes. It was Ethan, wasn't it? She asked softly. He got the special doctor for me. Jack nodded, unable to speak for a moment. He thought about how he'd pushed Ethan away, accused him of bringing chaos into their lives. Yet here was proof of something else entirely. Quiet, anonymous generosity, with no expectation of recognition or gratitude. I need to find him, Jack said, standing up. He kissed Lily's forehead. Will you be okay for a little bit? I'm fine, Dad, Lily said, her smile bright despite her pallor. Go find him. Jack stepped into the hallway, his mind racing. Where would Ethan be? He checked the waiting room, the cafeteria, even the parking lot. Finally, a kind-faced nurse pointed him toward the chapel. The small hospital chapel was quiet, with soft light filtering through stained glass windows. Wooden pews lined the room, and at the front, a simple cross hung on the wall. Ethan sat alone in the front row, his head bowed and hands clasped. Jack's footsteps echoed slightly as he walked down the aisle. Ethan didn't turn around, but his shoulders tensed, showing he knew someone was there. Jack slid into the pew beside him, leaving a respectful distance between them. For a long moment, neither man spoke. The silence was heavy with unspoken words and regret. "You didn't have to do this," Jack finally said, his voice rough with emotion. Ethan lifted his head slowly, his eyes red-rimmed and tired. "I wanted to." The afternoon sun filtered through the hospital window, casting a warm glow across Lily's recovery room. "Doctor." Jen had just delivered the news they'd been desperately waiting for. The surgery was a complete success. Lily's heart was stronger now, beating with renewed purpose. Jack stood by his daughter's bedside, his weathered hands trembling as he smoothed her hair. She looked so peaceful sleeping there, her chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. The monitors beeped softly, each sound a reassuring reminder that she was okay. Ethan lingered in the doorway, his expensive suit wrinkled from hours of waiting. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, but they sparkled with relief. He'd been there through it all. The endless night of surgery, the anxious waiting, the prayers whispered in the chapel. "She's going to be fine," Jack said softly, his voice rough with emotion. He turned to face Ethan, really looking at him for the first time since the surgery began. "You did this. You gave her a future." Ethan shook his head, taking a hesitant step forward. "No, Jack. You gave me one first." Jack crossed the room in 3 long strides. Without warning, he pulled Ethan into a fierce hug. The billionaire stiffened for a moment, unused to such raw displays of emotion. Then Jack whispered against his shoulder, "You're family now." Something broke inside Ethan. Years of carefully maintained control crumbled like a dam giving way. His shoulders began to shake, and suddenly he was sobbing, deep, racking sobs that seemed to come from his very soul. Jack held him tighter, his own tears falling freely. "I'm sorry," Ethan gasped between sobs. "I don't know why I'm—" "Let it out," Jack said quietly. "Sometimes a man needs to cry." They stood like that for several minutes, 2 grown men holding each other up while their tears fell. In that hospital room, there was no billionaire and mechanic, just 2 fathers, bound by love and grace. When they finally pulled apart, both men wiped their eyes, managing weak laughs at their tear-stained faces. Jack squeezed Ethan's shoulder. "Thank you for not giving up on us." "Never," Ethan promised. He looked over at Lily, his heart swelling with affection for this brave girl who had helped him remember how to love. "She reminds me so much of Noah at that age, so full of light." As if on cue, there was a soft knock at the door. Both men turned to see Noah standing there, looking uncertain in his leather jacket and worn jeans. His eyes were red-rimmed, suggesting he'd been crying too. "Dad?" Noah's voice wavered. "I saw your press conference online. Then Sarah, Dr. Chen, she called me." Ethan took a shaky breath, hardly daring to hope. "You came," Noah nodded, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "I couldn't stay away. Not after what you said. About learning to love again." He glanced at Jack. "About family." Jack stepped forward, extending his hand. "I'm Jack Turner. Your dad's been teaching me about second chances." A ghost of a smile touched Noah's lips as he shook Jack's hand. "Pretty sure he's the one learning from you, sir." He looked at his father. "We all are." Ethan's heart felt too full for his chest. Here they were, his son, the man who had become his brother, and the girl who had helped heal them all. Somehow, a broken-down car on a rainy night had led to this moment. "Noah," Ethan said softly, "I'd like you to meet the rest of our family." He gestured to Lily's sleeping form. "That's Lily. She's got the strongest heart of anyone I know, in every way that matters." Noah approached the bed carefully, studying the peaceful face of the girl who had helped bring his father back to him. "Hey, Lily," he whispered. "Thank you for fixing my dad." Jack cleared his throat, fighting back fresh tears. "When she wakes up, she's going to be over the moon to meet her new cousin." The word cousin hung in the air like a blessing. Noah's eyes met his father's, and decades of hurt began to melt away. They still had work to do, bridges to rebuild, but the foundation was there, strong and sure as the tools in Jack's garage. Ethan reached out, and this time Noah didn't pull away. Father and son embraced while Jack watched, his heart full. Through the window, the afternoon sun painted them all in gold. A family forged not by blood but by choice, by love, and by the courage to begin again. In her bed, Lily stirred slightly, a small smile touching her lips as if she could sense, even in sleep, that her family had grown larger and stronger than ever before. The morning sun cast long shadows across Turner's garage as Jack pulled up in his old pickup truck. The familiar scent of motor oil and fresh coffee filled the air, but something was different today. A sleek black Bentley sat parked beside his truck. Ethan was early again. Inside the garage, Ethan Caldwell stood in coveralls that probably cost more than most people's Sunday best, but they were already spotted with grease. He was bent over the engine of Mrs. Henderson's ancient Volkswagen, his brow furrowed in concentration. "You're getting better at this," Jack said, hanging his jacket on the worn wooden coat rack by the door. "But you've got that wrench backwards." Ethan straightened up and laughed, wiping his hands on a red shop rag. "I may be a slow learner, but at least I'm persistent." He flipped the wrench around. "Better? Much." Jack grabbed his own coveralls from the hook. "Never thought I'd see a billionaire choose to spend his mornings fixing carburetors." "Best decision I ever made," Ethan replied, his voice warm with sincerity. "Besides, Noah's coming by later to see how the sign painting is going." As if on cue, Lily burst through the side door, her art supplies clutched in her arms. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement, and her recovery had given her more energy than ever. "Dad, Uncle Ethan, I've got the final design." She spread a large piece of paper across Jack's workbench, carefully moving aside the scattered tools. The sketch showed their new logo, two hands clasped together, forming the shape of a heart, with wrenches and gears artfully incorporated into the design. "What do you think?" She looked between them anxiously, her fingers fidgeting with her paintbrush. Jack wrapped an arm around her shoulders, studying the design. "It's perfect, sweetheart. Just like your mom would have done it." Ethan stepped closer, his eyes soft. "She's got real talent, Jack. Sarah would be proud." The mention of his late wife's name no longer brought the sharp pain it used to. Instead, Jack felt a gentle warmth, knowing Sarah would have loved seeing their daughter so happy and healthy. The morning progressed with a steady stream of customers. Word had spread about the unlikely partnership between the small-town mechanic and the billionaire, bringing curious visitors from neighboring towns. But it wasn't curiosity that kept them coming back. It was the genuine care and honest work that both men put into every repair. Around noon, Noah's motorcycle rumbled into the parking lot. He'd traded his usual business attire for jeans and a leather jacket, looking more relaxed than he had in years. "Hey, Dad," he called out, removing his helmet. "The place is looking good." Ethan emerged from under a car, his face breaking into a wide smile. The awkwardness that had once defined their relationship was gradually melting away, replaced by something new and genuine. "Want to help your old man figure out this transmission?" Ethan asked, gesturing to the complicated machinery before him. Noah chuckled. "I think I'll leave the car expertise to you and Jack. But I brought lunch. Thought we could all eat together?" "Perfect timing," Lily called from her perch on the ladder where she was painting. "I'm starving!" They gathered around the old picnic table Jack had set up in the corner of the garage. Noah passed out sandwiches from the local deli, while Lily chattered excitedly about her plans for the new sign. "The letters are going to be in deep blue," she explained, gesturing with her sandwich. "And the logo will have this metallic silver finish that catches the light." Jack watched as Ethan and Noah listened intently to Lily's artistic vision, offering suggestions and encouragement. The scene before him would have seemed impossible just months ago. A billionaire, his formerly estranged son, and his own little family, sharing lunch in his humble garage. After lunch, they all pitched in to help Lily with the sign. Noah steadied the ladder while she worked. Ethan mixed paints, and Jack offered guidance on the lettering. The afternoon sun streamed through the open garage doors, casting everything in a golden light. "Remember when you first broke down here?" Jack asked Ethan, as they watched Lily put the finishing touches on the sign. "Did you ever imagine this is where it would lead?" Ethan shook his head, his eyes bright with emotion. "I came here looking for a quick fix for my car. Instead, I found something I didn't even know I was missing." He paused, watching Noah help Lily down from the ladder. "You taught me that real wealth isn't about money. It's about having people who care about you, who tell you the truth, who make you want to be better." Finally, Lily stepped back from her work, paintbrush still in hand. The new sign gleamed in the late afternoon light. "Turner, Caldwell Auto. We fix cars. We fix hearts." The words were perfectly rendered in deep blue, the logo catching the sunlight, just as she had envisioned. "Well?" she asked, looking anxiously at the gathered faces. "What do you think?" Jack pulled her close, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Absolutely beautiful." Noah nodded in agreement. "It captures everything perfectly, Lily." Ethan stood silently for a moment, taking in the sign that represented so much more than a business partnership. "You did it, Lily," he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "You found a way to show exactly what this place means." The garage that had once been just Jack's sanctuary had become something more, a place where broken things, whether they were engines or hearts, could be made whole again. The morning sun painted the garage in golden hues as Jack, Ethan, and Noah made their final inspections of the vintage 1965 Ford F-100 pickup truck. They had spent months restoring it for Lily's 16th birthday, working late into the nights after the garage closed. The truck gleamed in cherry red, its chrome trim polished to mirror brightness. "You missed a spot," Noah teased his father, pointing to an imaginary smudge on the hood. His eyes twinkled with mischief, so different from the angry young man who had first walked into the garage months ago. Ethan playfully swatted his son with a cleaning rag. "Very funny. I've cleaned this hood so many times I could probably use it as a mirror to shave." Jack stood back, arms crossed, admiring their handiwork. The truck had been a rust bucket when they'd found it, but now it was a masterpiece of restoration. Every bolt, every panel, every piece of upholstery had been carefully chosen and installed with love. The leather seats still carried that new car smell, mixed with the subtle scent of pine air freshener. "She's going to flip when she sees this," Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. He ran his hand along the smooth fender, remembering how his wife had always wanted Lily to have a special first car. Sarah would have loved this. Ethan squeezed Jack's shoulder, a gesture that had become natural between them. "She's watching, my friend, and she's proud of you." The sound of footsteps made them all turn. Lily stood in the garage doorway, her eyes wide with surprise. She wore the new dress they'd bought for her birthday dinner, her dark hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. The scar from her heart surgery was barely visible now, just a faint line above her collar. "Daddy?" she whispered, her gaze fixed on the truck. "What is this?" Jack's heart swelled with love as he watched his daughter's face. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. This is from all of us." Lily stepped forward slowly, as if in a dream. Her fingers trailed along the truck's pristine surface. Is this really for me?" "Every inch of it," Noah said, grinning. "Your dad, my dad, and I rebuilt it ourselves, even installed a killer sound system." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes as she opened the driver's door. The interior was perfect. Restored vintage gauges alongside modern safety features. The old-school steering wheel wrapped in fresh leather. A small heart charm hung from the rearview mirror, catching the sunlight. "The charm was your mother's," Jack explained softly. "She wore it the day we brought you home from the hospital." "That did it." Lily burst into tears, happy sobs shaking her shoulders as she threw her arms around her father. "Thank you, Daddy. Thank you so much." She moved to hug Noah next, then Ethan, who had become every bit the uncle she'd once playfully named him. "I can't believe you all did this for me." "Well, someone had to teach these two billionaires how to get their hands dirty," Jack joked, winking at Ethan and Noah. The months of restoration had done more than fix up an old truck. It had helped heal the rift between father and son, one wrench turn at a time. "Want to take it for a spin?" Noah held up the keys, dangling them temptingly. Lily bounced on her toes with excitement, but then hesitated, looking at her father. "Can I, Daddy?" Jack nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "You've got your license. That truck's all yours, baby girl." She squealed with delight, snatching the keys from Noah and climbing behind the wheel. The engine purred to life on the first try. They'd made sure of that, testing it countless times over the past week. The whole town's going to hear this beauty coming, Ethan said proudly, as Lily revved the engine experimentally. They followed her outside into the bright morning air. Lily eased the truck down the driveway with careful precision, then turned onto the main road. The sun caught the cherry red paint, making it glow like a jewel against the backdrop of their small town. The three men stood shoulder to shoulder, watching as Lily drove down the open road. Her arm waved out the window, and they could hear her laughter floating back to them on the breeze. Jack felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. Here he stood with two men who had become family in the truest sense, not by blood, but by choice, by love, by the healing power of trust and forgiveness. He placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, smiling at his friend.
Guess you fixed more than one heart after all.
Their laughter mingled with the sound of Lily's truck engine fading into the distance, the sunlight warm on their faces, their hearts full of hope. What would you do if you were in their place? Comment your answer below, and let's see how you'd rewrite the ending. If you enjoyed the story of Jack Turner, I handpicked the next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.